This is my own personal growth framework, and then I've applied it to AI. So, as entrepreneurs, we all want more action. We want more action from ourselves. We want more action from our teams, and we want more precision in our action, and we want more impactful, more meaningful, more valuable action, right? Like if I could just wave a wand and give you more meaningful, more impactful, more precise, and more valuable action across your culture, you'd say, I'm in, right? Like we all want that. And we all have a culture that's operating somewhere near capacity. Some of us have, we're humming at about 50%. We have some conflict in our capacity. We have lack of productivity. We have people that aren't, really clear in their priorities and taking meaningful action and being consistent in their action. And then some of us have figured out how to optimize, say, to the 80 percentile. And then you have an Elon that's probably playing at the 90 percentile, right? But nobody's at the 100%. And then many companies that I work with, they're operating at sub 50%, right? They have 50 people and they're not getting the work done at 50, they're getting the work done at 5. And that tends to be a pattern in a lot of companies. So to get more action, you have to change the way people think. And people hate change. People resist change. People do not want to change, especially employee-minded people that have been programmed year over year over year in employee thinking. And with our employee-minded culture, there's not a lot of people that are excited about change. And they're very resistant and they're very fearful of it. So in order to do that, you have to look at the way they speak. And when we onboard them, to answer your question, we evaluate their speaking, we evaluate their communication, we evaluate their language, we evaluate their personality from multiple dimensions. And then we give them a program and a plan as to how they can think differently, and therefore they can act more effectively. And so in essence, that's what we're using AI to do. And the language of a culture and a language of all the people within it and every interaction is a gold mine that we're teaching organizations how to utilize to become more effective and more precise and more efficient in their action.
Everything you've said makes sense to me because I'm experiencing it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, just earlier today, I was on I run a marketing agency. I'm on a call with the sales team, and I was like, we don't know what the leaks are. We really need a daily sales tracker so we can see how many calls you're getting on, no shows, all that. They're like, but we don't want to do that. I'm like, and it's running a culture and a group of people is not easy. And your level of leadership has to scale as your company scales. Otherwise it'll crash or it'll become very painful to operate in. If your level of leadership doesn't scale with the company, you will start eating away at your quality of life and your freedom, and your work will become a prison. And your work will take life from you as opposed to give life to you. So you have to scale that level of leadership as the company scales. And that's a formula that I've learned the hard way as an entrepreneur. I built a company that took off like a rocket ship. It did 600+ million a year in sales, 100 million in profit. I was in my early 30s, and I had 4,500 salespeople, and I didn't build the leadership for 4,500 full-time salespeople. So, I paid a price for that in my quality of life, in my happiness, and my health, and a variety of other areas as well. Obviously very difficult to find good people. So is that where making sure that you have, I'm just wondering if the AI can take a position there in leading the sales team or monitoring the sales team's activity, or do you still need a human being to lead those types of sales teams? We are
using AI to teach humans to have more empathy, for example. Empathy is a quality that we humans, need to have with each other. And in the corporate environment, we don't have it because we have such inefficiencies. We have to be so transactional because we're just burning money. You and I as entrepreneurs are just wasting money all day long. So I have to shift to transactional to try to reduce the waste, right? So as we implement AI and AI takes on some of these mundane tasks and processes and administrative things, and like your spreadsheet analogy or some of the other things that I now use AI for, it frees me up to be a better leader and to be more empathetic and to help skill build and develop people and take my time away from administrative work and actually develop people, which is, I think the first use case that all of us leaders, I don't see it replacing leadership anytime soon. But there will be, and we're in talks with some very powerful groups about this, there will eventually be companies that are somewhat autonomous, semi-autonomous, or close to autonomous. And, and so there will be companies with zero or very few human beings attached to them at some point in time. But there'll always be a need for human leadership. That will never go away. Us humans are not going to take our cues from a robot that doesn't know what it's like to be a human.
It's hard to deliver that message. That's one of the things that fascinates me too, by the way, Ryan, is the next billion-dollar company having one person, all these AI agents. Where do you think the biggest opportunities in the market are for that type of business to thrive?
Well, right now what we're doing is we're optimizing companies to be AI first. The theory behind that is that if I could take a company in a sector and I make it AI first, and let's say it's a manufacturing business or something like that, and it's got 10% EBITDA margins, and through being AI first, I can take it to 40% EBITDA margins or 35%, some significant improvement in its EBITDA margins. Then I can go buy every other company in the category and I can create a clear winner in the category. And so that's the work that we're doing now. There are some companies that would be easy to make autonomous. Let's say they're more e-com and, all it requires is the brand, some messaging and, a shopping cart and some ads. And, those things, are easier to make more autonomous. But a company that, that's manufacturing or making hard goods or solving a more complex problem is not going to be easy to make autonomous right now. And then there's going to be some regulation, like the attorneys, like who's responsible, who goes to jail if this autonomous company figures out a way to dupe people into spending money with it, right? Or manipulates people or takes advantage of people. So regulation is coming. And, those of us that are pioneering and innovating in autonomous companies are going to certainly have some regulation that we're going to have to work with, because otherwise it could get out of control. The concern, however, though, is not whether or not American companies do this, but what happens when, say, a Singapore decides to make their flagship autonomous companies like Delaware, of America, and you have now competitive threats coming in trying to harvest the resources of, say, Americans, and they have no care whatsoever for, Americans whatsoever, right? So that's why we need tariffs. That's why we need regulation. That's why we need to have our manufacturing internal. Because if you can imagine, if they manufacture, harvest, and ship to Americans, they could just harvest all the resources right out of America for their own betterment by way of some of these tools.
I mean, you brought up so many different forces occurring all within probably the next 2 to 5 years, actually happening now. The AI, the automation, the tariffs, the global trade, elections. There's just so much Doge coming in and clearing. There's so much change happening so quickly. And I mean, I've talked to a number of people that it feels like there's this inclination of it's too big, there's too much. I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and focus on what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that, or are you seeing most of the high performers saying, I'm going to evolve and this is how I'm going to do that?
It is, I was there at the beginning of the dot-com bubble. So I started my career in 96. I was a software engineer. And then I decided to become an entrepreneur because I saw people like Elon Musk and others that were doing quite well. I said to myself, I'm going to go raise millions of dollars and build $100 million company at a young age as an engineer. And now, I'm 47 and it's happening all over again times 1,000. And I'm like, wow. This is not only the greatest opportunity, but it's a lot of change very quickly, more so than what most humans have the capacity to withstand. So it is going to be disruptive. It is going to be painful. We are not good at change as human beings. For example, the fax machine, it took 10 years for email to totally make it obsolete. Now, next fax machine, it's going to be obsolete. I don't know what it is. Is it the administrative assistant? Is the next fax machine the accountant, the CFO? Is it the sales rep? Is it the SDR? The next fax machine will be obsolete like tomorrow. And then we'll all wake up to a new reality and have to pivot, and then pivot and pivot. And so if you, in my advice to the audience, focus on the positive, not the negative, because if you get caught up in all the bad things that can happen, you will not seize the opportunity that will emerge in this chaos. So you got to focus on the positive, not the negative. And you have to become great at change, embrace change, and start changing your life, your character, your competency, your personality, your education. Start changing yourself now. So that way you're in the process of change as these changes occur, and you can ride the wave that's coming. If you are resisting change personally and professionally, you are going to be ran over by the wave that's coming our way.